Calhoun with PERC, the Propane Education Research Council, and we're doing a series on combined heat and power. We've invited a number of our partners that have product available and are at various stages, some of them on projects with PERC. And the folks at BRASH have this unit that is about the size of your standard furnace. It replaces your heat, hot water, and electricity in a range of about 1 to 5 kilowatts is where it's rated for. In actuality, we're seeing results that are higher than that, which is a good thing thus far. They're in an early stages of commercialization. For those of you watching along today or on the recording, and if you're interested in more information, I'm sure the nice folks at BRASH will have their contact information at the end of the presentation so that you might contact them. Let me introduce to you, though, a couple of their players, and then I'm going to go dark and quiet and get out of the way and let them present their product. So with us today, we have Doug Brookman, and he's one of the partners with the BRASH company, BRASH Power. And Doug, actually, I met Doug about 1.5 years ago in Washington, D.C. at the World LPG meeting there in February of 2020, just before we all went dark into the world anyway. And it was there we began our relationship and talking about BRASH Power. And then from there, Mike is a longtime energy guy who comes from a solar background. So he can also speak to the fact that their unit is an excellent fit with PV array and battery backup. So with all of that, let me just get out of the way, introduce my friends, Mike and Doug with BRASH Power. Thank you for joining us today on this CHP series. I'm glad to have you.
Joe, thanks an awful lot. We at BRASH really value our partnership with PERC and look forward to good things to come forward. Again, my name is Mike Trahan with BRASH Power. BRASH Power has been focusing on micro combined heat and power. That is the traditional commercial industrial combined heat and power systems scaled down for the home. We are one of a handful that we know of players in this space. Some manufacturers have come to market and have had some limited success, mostly fuel cell-based systems in Asia and some in Europe, although efforts to run combined heat power systems on propane in North America have really floundered. It's been a difficult road to hoe in terms of bringing something to market that both has the heat and power production and also is offered to the consumer at a price that they would value. We have, like I said, been focusing on propane systems and gas-powered systems for a couple of years. We have lab space at Binghamton University in upstate New York, where our units are in testing, internal testing there, and we look forward to the point very soon where we'll have units for field testing, and look forward to getting questions from installers and other market players on this call as to how we might be able to work together in the future. I'm going to take us quickly through the PowerPoint, and Doug Brookman and I will hit some key points. And again, if you've got questions, we'd be happy to answer those at the tail end. So BRASH Power is the brainchild of Mike Brookman, brother of Doug. Mike has a long experience in combustion issues, air pressure, compression issues, technologies. We are hoping to take advantage of a problem that the majority of HVAC sales come at difficult times when the heat and power is out and homeowners are standing in the driveway looking for a system to replace the one that they have that just crapped out. There are a ton of homeowners in the North America that we see as potential users of our product, namely those that we're focusing on right now are in the Northeast US and in Canada, colder climates where there's a significant amount of heat demand. So for homeowners, it's the message to them is pretty simple. Having home generation security at a low cost and eliminating those electric bills by replacing old, inefficient home boilers. We have spent a lot of time meeting face-to-face at trade shows with natural gas utilities. And as Joe mentioned, we had the good fortune of starting some work with PERC about a half a year ago. So we have been buoyed by the response that we get from just about everybody that hears about micro combined heat and power. That most people we talk to about this never heard of the technology and are fascinated as we are that there are companies out there working to bring it to market. Again, this is a demand response asset that is paid by the homeowner and scaled back for home use. We see that this is, certainly a clean technology as it operates on clean and reliable and abundant propane. We see this as a grid solution out there that might be the most reliable around. And again, there's the resilience issues and the advantages that a distributed generation micro CMP offers over large conventional power plant systems. So we're a direct replacement for boilers or furnaces. These are images of the photographs of the system to your right. The system on the left is with the jacket on, the system on the right with the jacket off. We are continue to test these systems in our Binghamton laboratory. We had an overseas partner that was involved in the manufacture of these units, putting them together for us. And we'll talk to some generator and expander issues that we have with that supplier and how that fits to what with this current status that we are at this point. We're focused on the 1 to 5 kW power generation side. So it's very small. There are certainly some companies out there that would refer to themselves as micro CHP, and they certainly are. Some of the systems they're operating and selling right now are the 50 kW range, certainly much larger than any home would require. And those systems are working and working well for those applications. Our system is going to match up very well with solar. I have a long history in the solar industry in Connecticut from the association side. I know that most homes have rooftops that are no good for solar. They're either too small or too shaded or don't face the sun. Smaller systems can be installed in those places, but most rooftops aren't good. For those that are, we'd love to match up our system with solar to complete what would really be a fantastic unit for homeowners. It's, we try to think of snappy ways, easy ways to refer to the system. We've come up to a couple of this one appliance for all your home energy needs. We think that we have a very good chance. We need to demonstrate and prove this in our lab further before we can say with all certainty that how much of the monthly power bill that we'll be able to erase. And we are gunning for a 3 to 4 year payback on these systems. So here's how BRASH works. I'll ask Doug to kind of chime in on a little bit on this slide, but it's, as the name suggests in BRASH, it's our binary recovery air steam hybrid mixture. It is something unlike anybody else is out there. It's a little bit difficult to know for certain which manufacturers, which groups are putting systems together and what technology they're using. Some of them have made their technology achievements public, tracking those. Nobody yet, though, has announced any sales to homeowners in the micro CHP space. So we think that we are neck and neck, and perhaps in some cases a little bit ahead of others in terms of bringing our product to market. But we've got this condensing boiler making 400 Fahrenheit steam air mixture. It's passed through a dry heat mixture across a turbine, a low-speed turbine expander, and it generates power. Pretty simple stuff. That step is about a fifth of the total energy from the system. The other 80% distributed in the home for room heat and hot water. We've really stripped the technology down to its simplest forms. Many of the pieces and parts that go into this unit are off the shelf, which makes us, very excited about being able to bring this unit to market at a price that homeowners will appreciate it. The returning water from the room heating cycle is then reheated over and over again. Did I get that pretty close, Doug, to the operation of the system?
That's an excellent description, Mike, and I like the fact that you emphasize that this is pretty simple. it really is quite simple, with an eye toward efficiency, toward recovering all that heat in some place in the house and making sure you've got power that's sufficient for the home and also to export to the grid as negotiated with the local utility.
So thanks, Doug. So yeah, I'm not sure if we've got a slide here, but knowing that there are some installers in the audience, this is a two-box solution, a simple installation. We split the system up between the heat and power boxes. It's we think that based on size and weight, it'll be able to get in and out of basements relatively easily. And we've had good conversations with HVAC people already, and they're providing us guidance so that the system that we eventually put out to demonstrate is going to be something that installers are going to appreciate. We've got some timetables here. We've fallen a little bit behind. Our supplier overseas has run into some supply issues for us, so we are now in the process of searching out a couple of parts, expander and generator parts, which we think we'll be able to get. We do feel very good that the air-steam mixture technology that's been developed, though, is that we've been able to prove that the efficiency and the efficacy of that technology. So we had a handful of systems. We think based on where these parts are sourced and their history, that they're UL approved. And we hope that by the end of this year, we'll have systems ready to site in locations in the Northeast with our partners, and then learn from those installations over next year, and then begin to deploy additional systems as test systems in various propane settings. And then we are prepared, based on that success, in 2 years or less, to really begin to branch out into the assembly and distribution hubs that we're starting to identify. So the market size is, it's enormous, really. I mean, we've talked to some utilities about, direct upgrades, through bill inserts. Utilities that we've talked to on the gas side are interested in selling these systems to their homeowners. On the propane side, obviously, we're excited to work directly with installers or through supply houses to help educate installers on the benefits of the system.
Mike, let me add that to that last slide. Our contacts are dozens of contacts over the span of several years with gas utility executives causes us to think that they'd be very interested in doing a bill insert like they do for an old hot water heater. They may be doing the financing themselves. There are many, many different ways to make sure the cost is manageable for the homeowner and that the utility gets the benefit of cogeneration on site, so that in its territory, it's more resilient in the face of difficulties and disasters. And also there is the ability for these units to generate and give back to the grid as called and needed.
So as I mentioned before, there are some issues that I think separates our pursuit of micro CHP. There are units up there that are internal combustion systems versus external combustion. We are the latter, and we think that there are some benefits to that, not the least of which, IC systems have to be installed, as it's written here, positively in venting outside. So those systems right now that we've come across are focused mostly on commercial markets, but we are an external combustion system, which I think separates us from not only those who are in the 50 kW rate, but from others at the low micro CHP level. This is the group. Mike Brookman on top there. We're missing a photo of Doug Brookman, but we pulled together folks from various angles to give us the best input on how to drive us forward. We are in the process of developing an advisory board and would be welcome to hear from those who have an interest in this technology and would like to stay current on it, to perhaps join us. We have several patents in place, several of them on the external combustion engine side, and we feel that we are well covered for the foreseeable future. And here's some financials that probably aren't really germane to today's conversation. So we are seeking third-party validation from a couple of different sources. We know that we've got some proving to do on our technology. As I said, we need to source two other important components to the unit. Once we've got those in place and we have the system up and running at our Binghamton laboratory the way we want it to, we'll be going out and placing two systems, working with our partner PERC in the propane side, and then gathering information on those and using that to improve on our systems going forward. I mentioned the intellectual property and the discussions we've had with utilities who are interested in testing our system. Talked a little bit of our sales strategy and our channels. Again, we are really interested to hear from more propane installers so that to make sure that the system we come up with is the dimensions and the weight and so on are built into the product so that it's an ease of installation. A couple of wrench turns is all really that's going to be needed here. And that is it.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Great presentation. I do have like one comment and there are a few questions. As far as the comment goes, you talk about being off grid and the comparison in terms of the efficiencies to grid electricity. You know, these units are much more efficient, but even from a tailpipe emissions perspective, right? When you look at what the emissions are from a propane application versus your emissions from the grid, we think that propane is somewhere around 30% cleaner than the average grid, just the average grid. So, you know, so it's kind of a +1 right there. You also talked about the external versus internal combustion engine. That's not to be just glossed over because that enables us to do some things that you can't do with an external engine, like it gets us into that CARB certification probably very easily, right? And we're in that process. A couple of questions though that did come in. One in particular was related to net metering. And that's a subject, Mike, that, and I'm sure you'll want to field that question, but the question was, did you have any summary of how the product will work, maybe on a state-by-state basis or regional basis, in integrating with grid electricity through net metering? Do you have any resources available that folks could turn to so they know when they have a unit that it will then be able to be hooked up, if you will, to the grid?
Right. So those issues are going to be state by state in a lot of ways. I mean, the federal investment tax credit, ITC, we feel would apply to these purchases. So while that federal tax credit is available for all states, the cost would remain the same. On net metering that you brought up, that is going to be a state by state, sometimes utility territory by utility territory. So I know in Connecticut, there are rules that allow net metering for residential CHP. There's also interconnection issues also that are different state by state. My association's actually been trying to sync these issues across the Northeast. We're running into some resistance there, but whether it's net metering benefits there, which is, any excess generation from the system that's not used on site is then fed back into the grid, and the homeowner is then compensated for that. At what rate the compensation is different from state to state, but you'd also get the steady investment tax credit. There might be some incentives for propane users. There might be some incentives for high efficiency technology users. So we're in the process of figuring out really what that package of costs will be state to state. So for those installers that work in different states, you almost have to learn a different language to keep track of all these things. And, I know at least, and I follow these closely on the solar side, they change with some regularity. So I don't know if Doug has anything to add to that, but we are fully prepared to begin working in states that either may not have any net metering policy in place. I know that's going to be on us to work with legislatures to get those policies changed so that net metering, so that propane home systems would qualify.
Yeah, I would add that Joe raises a really important point talking about the emissions reductions in these systems. We figure it's in that zone, Joe, that you described. Lots of different ways to calculate that. But in addition to what Mike Trahan was just describing, the new order from PERC 2222, makes that brash unit in your basement a generation site and changes the rules the way the rules
That's
used
right.
to mandate and restrict the central power plants in remote locations.
That's right.
Now, remote locations, your basement producing 5 kilowatts becomes eligible for many different benefits, and particularly more favorable treatment, passing power back to the grid. So that's it's a big change.
Yeah, and to dovetail on that, and that's FERC, FERC, so the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. What that means is they've come out with this policy statement that levels the playing field, and it makes it easier for folks that have a home-based system to be their own distributed energy source, right? So you'll see things like microgrids pop up associated with 2222 and micro CHP as well as CHP. So,
Yeah.
but back to the state by state basis, I know there are some states like Michigan, for instance, that has an extensive roadmap for CHP in their state, or in Maryland, where you are, Doug, there are programs available for commercial use of CHP. And they actually, through the Department of Energy, I think it is, or Energy Resources, something like that, in Maryland, issue grants to folks applying for them. And it's not the whole cost, but it does pay for some of the unit and certainly helps folks. And they're really looking at folks that want islanded power for very specific reasons. So tell me though, from the standpoint of the average propane marketer, or maybe even the above average propane marketer, tell me what, if they're interested in putting in units like this, what kind of partners should they be aligned with, or how do they find these opportunities?
Well, so let me start with that.
Okay.
We're fortunate to be working with you, Joe, and with PERC, because that's one of the things we're trying to figure out, how to make it easy for a propane installer to access our units, and so that he's got one on the back of his truck or in his storehouse on that cold winter morning when the house goes cold, that it's a viable alternative. And also, in addition to having something that's an easy install, that he has the materials that he needs to make a good sell on the economic side, so that all, the benefits, the pluses, that he's articulated and schooled in how to really do an upsell from a standard propane fired unit to something that's got the ability to produce power. So, we're looking at many different models to engage with prospective customers. We've had many conversations with gas utility companies. Some are very receptive and are used to doing buyback programs and financing and all kinds of things like that. But that's one of the reasons we value our partnership with PERC, because that's the kind of stuff we need to figure out.
That's right. Well, and I see this as being an opportunity for a young homeowner buys a house and they're revamping the systems. They've got an old boiler in it. They want to replace it. It's kind of cool because it's got its own little feedback system, right? So there's an app for that. So that you could look and see, you're away from home and you want to make sure that, hey, when we left, the batteries were a little low. Yeah, now it's kicked back in. It was a cloudy day that day, and the unit had to run a little longer because the PV wasn't pulling its weight, right? And that's exactly why these units are out there. And I'm a believer. I think we just need to keep telling your story. So I'm sorry. Did you have other thoughts, Mike? I know, you really, that PV market so well. Just kind of curious your thoughts in terms of how else a propane marketer could partner with someone to find these opportunities.
Sure. Well, I mean, it was a couple of years ago when it finally dawned on us in the solar industry how many homes, especially in the Northeast with so many trees, are not candidates for solar. And that immediately got me thinking about how to get my member installers and developers to branch out and consider other opportunities like pairing up micro CHP with solar systems. And just like, those of us who understand these technologies have had to work very, very closely, educating installers on the benefits and the pitfalls to this, we are at BRASH fully prepared to work with the propane community to help them understand the electrical side of this, all of the mechanics in terms of working with local governments and state governments and federal governments to receive all the incentives and grants that are out there to help drive down the price of these systems. It's going to require some work, especially on those companies like us who are introducing new technologies to an industry that maybe hasn't had an advance in these type systems for quite a while. So we understand that we're going to be in the education business. We understand that we're going to be in the government liaison business. We're going to be in the lobbying business, trying to get legislature to change rules that aren't appropriate to make propane systems interconnect and net meter quickly. I've been through those battles already, and Doug will tell you I like to fight a little bit. So I'm eager to get our systems raring to go, and then start working in states to see that the groundwork is laid for easy transition.
Well, as for PERC and what we do around here, we can't help you with the L word, but we can arm you with the information you need. The other education piece, and I, drive this back to what we do at PERC, is we've got a lot of educational resources. We're in the process of developing a more sales-oriented piece for CHP and micro CHP, but in the meantime, we've got a technical one available for some continuing education credits. And we also have various partnering kinds of training programs. So you can go to propane.com and go to what we call the Learning Center. If you don't have an account, sign up. And you can there see several different learning programs, or and they're all on demand for how to establish partnership. We can help. So I'm really glad to be partnered with you guys too. It's been a lot of fun. So and it's just getting started, really.
Well done. I love your system. And I'm so glad you guys came on VPE and hung out with us and chatted with us in PERC. So thank you so much.
MR, is there a way to, do we have a presence on your website where we can post our contact information? Maybe Joe, that might be the best way.
We do, and you can actually have, so I did post, Mike, I did post your email address. So that's a content. Anybody that has pre-registered or has been able to attend, because of course this is recorded, so we'll be able to share this. You'll get a list of the folks that have pre-registered and attended. So you'll be able to, send out an email, just say hi if you have any more questions. And so we also have a booth on our website that we can set up for you at no charge.
So let me, representing my brother, Mike, the inventor, thank all of you. This has been wonderful. Thank the team, VPE. Thanks, Joe Calhoun, Mike Trahan, nice job presenting. We're really looking forward to making a mark in this industry. In fact, not only being a trendsetter, but being a market leader. And so thanks to all of you, and we'll continue to be in touch.
Fantastic. Thank you again, gentlemen.
Be well, be safe. Thank you again for your time, for those attending. And if you've got questions, let the folks at BRASH know, or you can always contact us at PERC as well. Thank you.
Thank you.